Is a new segment titled Let's Get Real. And for those of you that I don't know, my name is Morgan Butcher. I'm a pastor at Venture Church in Mill Creek, Washington. And in this segment, our lead pastor, Pastor Brandon Beals, and I are going to be trading off, interviewing different public figures, pastors, locals from the area, Venture Church members, to get to know them, to hear their stories, talk about life, faith, and what they've been doing in their sphere of influence. And today, I feel really blessed to get a chat with an old friend of mine. Travis Atreo is with us today. Travis, what's up, man? How are you doing?
What's up, man? I'm good. How are you? How's the big Washington?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's about 60 degrees here today, which means that
Oh,
if it
wow.
wasn't quarantine, people would be in their bathing suits, tanning on the beaches of Kirkland right now.
Yo, that's true. 60 to anything above 59, it's like summer weather, like it's 105.
Yeah. People from California walk around like, what is going on? It just doesn't.
Oh, yeah. I think it's like 60 degrees here, and I'm literally like, I'm cold.
Bundle. Bundle. Well, Travis and I met years ago now. Dude, it's been a long time. At actually the first church I ever attended. I had just given my life to Jesus at this church in Shoreline. And Travis, we met there at Westminster Community Church, man, back in the day. And you were leading worship actually for us, I think, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's how we met, man. Was leading worship there for a while with the
Yeah.
whole family out there. Yeah, that was a good time.
And we were both in college at the time, I think, or at least we were that age range anyways.
Yeah, I think I was still going to Northwest
Yeah.
for the one semester I went.
Come on.
But yeah, that was, oh my gosh, that was totally the time.
Northwest University alumni right here.
That's right.
A
Wait,
proud
you didn't go
spring
there,
Eagle.
did you?
I kind of lived there. There's literally, I still meet people that think that I went there. Remember, I just slept on our friend's couch like every night. And
That's
literally, like,
hilarious.
the RD thought I was a student there. We had straight up conversation. I played in intramurals. I was in the yearbook. I was probably more of a
No
student than
way.
you were, and I was never actually even enrolled there.
I would not be surprised. Like, seriously, were way more of a student. I was not involved in anything other than trying to pass, and I don't think I did that.
So we actually have a lot of young adults and actually people who are at our church who graduated from Northwest University. I got
Nice.
to ask just a couple questions. What floor were you on?
Oh my
You
gosh,
remember?
this is gonna, oh, 300, was that it? Does
300?
that sound?
Yeah,
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 300.
yeah. 300. Yeah, that'd be
I
right.
think it was 300. Yeah, man.
I'm proud of you for even remembering
I honestly don't know how I remembered that.
that.
I was gonna be
One
like
semester, dude. That's impressive.
4.
3 or 4, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So, best memory from Northwest? Do you have any memories? You remember anything? Did you play intramurals or anything like that for that one semester?
Dude, I wanted to, but I don't think I did because I think I was working too. And
Uh,
honestly, like just the whole experience of like just hanging with, folks and stuff and
totally.
and just meeting people, I think was like my favorite thing
Yeah,
there. The music was awesome.
yeah.
It was always on point. But yeah.
So, Travis, for those of our viewers that have never met you, don't know you at all, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Tell us, where you're from, where you're currently living, and just kind of what you do, what you're doing in life.
Yeah, so my name is Travis Atreo. I grew up in Federal Way, Washington.
Come
So
on.
that's why I got my Seahawks hat on. I live now in Los Angeles, California. Never ever thought in my entire life I would say that. But yeah, I've been living here for the past 7.5 years now, and it's my home away from home. And I've been a musician and a recording artist and a producer for a long time. I grew up playing worship music and being a worship leader, and that was why I was going Northwest, because I was looking into getting a degree in like worship ministry.
Mm.
But the reason why I had to leave was because I was also in a band at the time, and we were talking to labels and stuff, and we were touring, and so I just had to go. But yeah, that's so. Fast forward all the way up till now, I've been releasing covers weekly on my YouTube channel for years now, and I've also just released an album as well. And just as of September of last year, I signed a distribution deal with Warner Music out in the Philippines. So
that's awesome.
It's been a roller coaster, but then it's also been just, some of the best times of my life, and I couldn't be more grateful and thankful.
Yeah. Dude, I totally forgot about this until like 2 seconds ago. There's probably people that are watching this right now that were a part of the youth ministry when you and New Heights came. You guys actually played a show at our youth ministry in Linwood. Do you remember that?
Yes, I totally remember that.
I totally forgot about that.
Dude.
That was such a fun night, man.
That was I can't believe we didn't remember that.
I just totally, I mean, I've talked about that before with people, and I literally just sitting here chatting with you now, I just totally, I don't know why I didn't think about that.
Crazy.
So you started in a band together with a few other guys, I remember. New Heights is what it was called, right?
Yeah.
I think I still have one of the albums in my CD binder somewhere.
Yes.
Away. Yeah.
CD binder, yeah.
You remember like driving in your car and flipping through giant binders of CDs?
Oh yeah. I was talking about the other day how nowadays, like, when people are like, bye, and they sit in their car for 5 minutes, it's like figuring out the playlist, and it's also like mapping. Back then it was like, which CD?
No, what's crazy to me is that we can't talk on our cell phones, but we could flip through entire binders of music while we drove our cars. That's
so true.
And
then trying to put it in the CD changer.
Yeah, dude.
The CD changer comes out, and you can. So
whatever, man. Whatever. So then you pulled you kind of pulled like a Justin Timberlake kind of thing, right? You went kind of solo. You went more the solo direction.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to call it I don't know if you want to associate with.
That's great.
But he's the man, right?
Yeah, he's the man.
Moved down to LA and started just going more on the individual route. And dude, you're killing it, man.
Thanks, man.
I mean, so for those of you who don't know this guy, I know Travis. We touch base every once in a while on social media and stuff like that. But
I just life. I mean,
Yeah, Boys for Life. But I just like hopped on your Spotify, checked out your Instagram just to like prepare myself, to speak to Travis Atreo. And I like was blown away, like legitimately blown away. 160 million streams on Spotify.
It's crazy.
Okay, let me just throw out some numbers here. 160 million streams on Spotify. 1,660,000 monthly listeners. 43,000 followers on Instagram. Bro, I thought I reached the pinnacle when I got to 1,000 followers on Instagram. Like, dude, when we talk about those kinds of things, how does that sit with you? How does that like settle with you when you think about, like, when we talk about those numbers, those are like people who are connecting with you as an artist and as a person. How does that sit with you?
Dude, I mean, it's one of the most like just craziest things, I don't want to say accomplishment because like, like I've said before, like I don't really see it as me. Like I don't deserve this, like I don't see it as an accomplishment for what I did. I just see it as I was given these gifts, and then I just have to be a good steward of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, well, first of all, I mean, it is crazy because, I grew up with this dream of being a full-time artist, like for so long. And that was what I discovered at like age 13. I was like, I'm going to be an artist. And so playing in church and stuff was kind of like my training ground for that. I always appreciated and loved, playing worship music and praise music because it was like, it wasn't me performing, but it was me garnering my skills, on how to like play live and how to play with people and stuff. And then you fast forward up to now, and it's I don't know, man, it's crazy. Like I remember a couple years ago, Spotify, when they started releasing, kind of like your yearly wrap up statistics and stuff, they were like, the amount of people that listened to you this year alone would wrap around Wembley Stadium like 40 times or something. Like,
whoa,
like, oops, like it's just it is mind-boggling in that sense, you know. It's humbling because it's like, oh my gosh, there's that many people, you know, that listen to the music, and I'm so grateful. And that's why I always just thank people. I'm like, thank you for even taking the time, because everybody is so busy, you know. And the fact that something that I created literally in my studio bedroom, you know, is appreciated by people in that sense. It's mind-boggling, but it's one of the biggest blessings of my life.
That's so cool, man. And you know, it's really cool because even as I was, you know, looking at some of your numbers and things like that, it's not just the United States. It's like all over the place. Talk about just a little bit about how your music has just kind of reached different parts of the world. And you know, we talked a little bit before this about you over in Japan a lot, and I know that there's pretty good following over there as well. How did this kind of like just go further and further? I mean, it's like a huge ripple effect, I feel like, just outside of a little kid from Washington now in LA with music all around the world.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really a couple things I'd say. Like, the reason why it happened was because I just, when I moved to LA, I was going to be a producer. That was my whole thing, because I had been producing behind the scenes for the band for years. And then whenever we were back home from the road, I was producing other bands locally. So I was like garnering these like recording skills, and I realized that I love like the recording process, like audio engineering and mixing and mastering, all that stuff. So whenever we as a band would go record with a producer, I was always that person that was like right next to the producer, just kind of annoying the crap out of him or her, because just asking all these questions.
Let me do my job.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just had such a natural affinity towards that. And then I just loved it so much that I don't know, I just kind of went full in. And I always told myself, you know, this band thing, there's a limited time on it. So everybody else in the band has degrees. And I'm like, my degree and my retirement plan is to have a studio and record artists, because I could do that for the rest of my life. So when I moved to LA, it was actually about year 7 of the band, and we were already just trying to transition things in life and stuff. And we weren't able to make it a viable business at that point, because we really desperately wanted to go full time, but we just couldn't. And then the label we were talking to passed on us. So I decided I was going to hang up the hat of performing, and I was going to move down to Los Angeles and, you know, just be like a record producer. That was my whole goal. And so it was crazy it's crazy now that, you know, being an artist and doing it all over again, it's really been an amazing journey. But I truly believe that I was done performing, like done. I was only going to be behind the scenes. And what happened was my fiance, my girlfriend at the time, Allie, she could see that I was kind of getting frustrated, you know, working. It wasn't the artist that I was working with, it wasn't a personal thing, but it was just like I was getting frustrated because I wasn't creating for me. And she just suggested, why don't you just start doing like covers, because, you know, they're just fun and you can do them for yourself and stuff. And I was like, all right, so I'll try it. And I started doing that weekly, and then it just kind of started to grow. And I was just putting the covers out. There was a service out that you were able to, you know, make a little bit of money back from covers. So I started using that service, and then it just started to grow. And really, honestly, the Spotify algorithm has saved my life, because I don't even know how. It just kept growing. And I'm just like, so I told myself, I'm like, if I can make as much as I'm making, you know, from the Spotify covers, if I could transition that and just focus on that full time, I would be so happy. And you know, thank God that it did.
Well, and you had some pretty like pinnacle moments that really like shot your Spotify following up. I mean, quite a bit. I remember one of your covers that you did. I can't remember what song it was. I know that you remember, but I remember you getting a shout out from Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah.
After you covered, what song was it?
It was a song, her song Style.
Style, yeah.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that? Was probably 6-7 years ago or something?
Yeah, that was a minute ago now, because like her 1989 album had just come out. And so I was trying to like, you know, capture the moment of, you know, the marketing and press and stuff for the album. And so I just decided to put together like a quick little cover. And the fact that she found it and then she like tweeted it on her Twitter was just insane. And that actually, the reason why that means so much to me is not only because of Taylor freaking Swift,
Yeah.
but it's I was still wrestling. I was already putting out covers and just, thinking about being an artist again, but I
Yeah.
was still on the fence. And that was kind of like the thing that I needed in
Wow.
like to, like the wind beneath, my sails, like that I needed to kind of be like, okay, if she did this, then she didn't have to.
Mm,
Maybe I should at least try this artist thing one more time.
mm,
Maybe I shouldn't write this thing off just because, we had failed, quote unquote, in my head at the time. Uh, so yeah, that was kind of the catalyst for me, like just kind of being like, all right, let's do this. Let's see how
yeah.
far we can take this thing.
Wow. That's really cool because one of the things I didn't even think about, I wasn't even planning on going down this road of asking you this question, but one of the things that I've noticed a lot about what you've been doing is partnering with other artists and, not necessarily people that would be household names, but it seems like people who you've started leveraging some of your influence to maybe raise up and encourage other artists around you. Would you say that that's partly because of that influence that moment had on your life, or is that something that you've always just kind of felt like was something that you wanted to do as a producer?
I think I'd say the second part to your question was the answer is that I've always just loved collaboration.
Mm,
Um, so just naturally loving, like, especially being in a band, we would always write together, and then collabing with other artists on different tours and stuff. That was always kind of like the culture that we had. And so yeah, just collaborating with other artists, incredible artists,
yeah.
like Matt Bloyd, or Joseph Vincent, or friends that I just have the utmost respect for.
Mm,
I would say that a moment with like the Taylor Swift thing does give you this kind of like ability to ask certain things of like people, like, hey, do you want to collab? I
yeah.
promise I'm not going to waste your time. you know um but I'd say it's always been born out of that, like, community has always been the
Mm,
most important thing to me. I mean, I grew up, I'm like 75% Filipino and like a quarter Scottish, and but I grew up in a very Filipino household, and my mom is first generation Filipino, and my church growing up before we served together was a Filipino church. So we're always been about community. So if we can share resources and time to help each other, that only helps all of us.
mm.
Like, we can't move forward as a musical community if we don't do it together.
That's really good, man. That's awesome. So, you live in LA. You are neck deep in the music scene, the music culture. You grew up as a worship leader, in church. Grew up as a young Christian man. How has that transition of cultures, how did that challenge your faith? How was that transition for you? What has that whole transition been like in your life?
Mm.
Just moving from such drastic kind of environments.
Yeah, totally. I mean, as big as a city is of Seattle, I mean, Seattle, um, the music scene, the music industry, just the music scene is very popular and very deep, but the industry is just not there.
Mm,
So, I the reason why I moved to LA and just even thought of it was, if I want to be a record producer, I need to move to where the industry is. Just how, like, if you're living in, a small town of like 1,000 people in, the middle of Iowa, and you want to be a computer programmer that, works in tech, you kind of have to move to where there's an industry.
right.
So that was the whole reason. But I'd say one of the things that I learned about LA was that I was very wrong about the people here.
Mm,
I think that people in LA and the culture in LA, where everybody thinks that everybody's a shark and it is dangerous, but that's like anywhere.
mm,
I think that Los Angeles has such a great community because the majority of us out here are all transplants. So whenever I meet anybody who is from the LA area, I'm like, you grew up
whoa.
here? Yeah, it's like, what? I have so many questions for you.
Yeah.
But I learned that, people in LA and the culture here, we're all very passionate, and we're all flawed artists. Like, we've all moved to this place to kind of test our dreams in that sense. So I'd say LA it's tough to understand at first, but when you realize everybody is here to kind of build their own mountain of work, then it makes it easier to navigate. Yeah, because like in Washington, you know, it's the arts community is beautiful and amazing, but sometimes the wrong people can have kind of a competitive thing, and of course that's here in LA as well. But I've just personally found that, you know, when you surround yourself with a good community of people and people that align with your vision and with your values, just beautiful things really can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So one of the things, I was, you've been doing, because of all the COVID-19, you know, pandemic, we were even just talking before this, how you have really been, you know, challenged, and musicians in general have been challenged on trying to find new ways of connecting with people, utilizing social media and streaming more and things like that. You know, I was on Instagram, as I so often am in this season, but noticed that you were doing a little Instagram live, and hopped on. And it's not that you know, don't have Christian foundation and background and things like that, but you primarily, your music is more pop. How would you describe your brand of music?
Yeah, I've had like supporters explain it for me before, which has been better than I could explain it. They were like sad, inspirational, heartbreaking music.
I like how you put it on your Instagram. You said, I turn pop songs into sad ballads.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, you know, the reason is because like just real quick, the reason why I do it that way is because worship music is just, you know, it's been my entire life, and I'm realizing I interpret music in that way. So
oh wow,
I've always, so whenever I hear a cover, or whenever I make a cover, I've always just been like, you know, just like any church song, like when I'm arranging it for the worship band or something, I'm like, okay, how are we going to play this? You know, we don't have this instrument, we don't have that. How can we compensate? And it usually ends up being kind of an unplugged, you know, version of the song. You know,
yeah.
You know, at the time, you know, the churches that I would play at, we didn't have 20 guitarists like Hillsong does to play the same part. No shade, but you know, I was like, they got a lot of guitars. But so I kind of I'll take these songs and I'll think of them in that way, and I'll be like, okay, if I had to play this, you know, and make like a piano vocal version of this, then what would I do? And that's kind of, you know, kind of where the inspiration comes from. Yeah. But sorry.
So yeah. Anyways, I was on Instagram Live and hopped on right as you were playing a worship song. You were covering a worship song on your Instagram, and I mean, you know, so for a guy like me, like I know a little bit of your background. I know that you were a worship leader. I know that you have that Christian background. But you know, probably for a lot of your viewers, they don't necessarily know that about you. Maybe they do because they've seen you post things like that before, but it's not like a regular thing that you would necessarily do.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I mean, well, actually, I know why. When I hopped on and I heard you singing that song, what song was that again? I literally.
You Say by Lauren Daigle? Yeah. I knew I was gonna mess up her name.
I should know that. Well, she's really good.
She's amazing. It's really a great song.
Yeah. But yeah, you were playing that song, and dude, I was just like, I just sat there and I was like, yeah, come on. And you know, I was thinking about how much that probably affected, and how few people have probably heard that song. You know, if they don't have maybe a Christian background or things like that. I just want to ask you, you know, what made you decide that night to, with everything that's going on in the world, what kind of brought you back to thinking, man, this is something that I need to play tonight. This is something that I need to have people hear it? Was it for yourself? I mean, like what kind of brought you to play that song that night?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So like, this whole situation has been just crazy. I mean, unprecedented doesn't even begin to describe it, right? Like, people are really hurting. Um, we all are grieving at this moment. We all have stress and anxiety, and me and Ali were talking about it. Like, we were like, for like the first couple of weeks of like the shutdown and stuff, we are like, why can't we do any, like, why can't we wake up with that fire that we used to have of like taking on the day and getting tasks done, and even chores are hard to do. And I read something like, someone was like, it's okay, give yourself grace right now, because everything's changed, and it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to grieve, because we're in a grieving season, when things have changed so drastically. And so, I actually, I haven't played that song in a while now, and I haven't played worship music in a bit, just because I'm focusing on my music and writing album stuff. But for me, one, music has always been therapy, and then worship music has always been therapy as well to me. So even if, like, people that are on my live streams, aren't necessarily practicing the same faith that I grew up with, it doesn't matter, because I feel like music transcends all languages. Music has always done that.
Yeah.
And if there's any way that I can bring a little bit of peace to someone, then that's what I want to do. And I feel like the way that I can do that is just through music. I learned a really interesting thing, that over the past few years, that growing up, there was always this thing of like Christian music and then secular music, but I feel like where culture is now, there's just music, and I think that's a really great thing. And because I was always just so sad that there was such a big, split between types of genres, when I've always just loved any and every type of, genre of music, and worship included. So I don't necessarily want to, do this thing where it's like separate. It's like, no, it's like this is the music that influenced me growing up. This is how I process grief in sad times. And I just want to share that with the people that are interested to hear it. And awesome. It's been really cool to see a response. And I'll get people that I didn't even know these songs, or I mean, like a friend last night, he messaged me and he was like, you have to cover this song. And I opened it up, and it was Oceans by Hillsong.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And I love that, because and he doesn't go to church, or doesn't grow up in the faith at all. But that's what I'm loving right now in the current state of music. And it's just, we just need any sort of art, any sort of anything right now that can give us peace. And so, yeah, like I said, that's what I want to bring to people.
Great, man. Well, I know that, you're carrying influence right now in your life. And that's, for anyone that carries any type of influence, the way that you carry that is so important. And just want to say, dude, I'm really, really just proud of you, honestly, for sticking to who you are, and really just, giving people peace and hope in this season, in whatever way you can, man. It's really cool to see a person, like you use that in such an effective way, and something that's so natural to you. So it was really, really impactful for me to see too that night. And I just sat there on my couch and watched it, and I was like,
man, I appreciate that so much, because I remember one thing that I heard, Michael Bublé had a documentary like years back, when he had played Madison Square Garden the first time, and he said something that really has stuck with me this entire time. And it stuck with me even when I was, leading worship in those days, because he said, everybody has problems, and I'm totally butchering what he said, but it's pretty much saying everybody has problems, everybody has issues that we all go through. And he was saying it's kind of his biggest honor in his life that people will get ready, and they will put, perfume on, and dress their best, and come to his show, and allow themselves to be, quote unquote, distracted, and fully focused on being fully 100% entertained. and they're able to let go of those anxieties for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's always stuck with me, because that's what not just the arts and entertainment does, but that I feel like that's always what worship music has done for me as well. It's like we can just focus on something else other than ourselves for a minute, you know. Yeah. And I think, you know, it's amazing to really see people completely around the world. I do this thing every night whenever I do a live stream, and I say, put in the chat box, you know, where you're from, where you're watching from. And
yeah,
getting, you know, healthcare workers in Italy who are literally on their way to work. I mean, like, you know, people in Asia, in Thailand, in the Philippines, just all over the US here. It's mind blowing, you know, the fact that people would not just spend time with me, but, you know, just be in community with each other. And what's amazing to see, Morgan, has been to see friendships happening through this, like people that live on completely other sides of the world, becoming friends, or at least, you know, recognizing each other whenever we do another live stream, you know, saying hi to each other. It's been amazing. So it just proves that we are truly all in this together.
Yeah, that's so well said. Well said, man. Well, hey, you just came out with a new album recently. Where can people find that album? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the album's called Love Drunk. It's on Spotify. It's pretty much a bunch of songs. It's about 13 tracks, 12 songs about, you know, being young and in love and going through the heartbreak and the good times, the sad times. But yeah, they can find it on Spotify, on Apple Music, on anywhere that music is streamed, honestly, iTunes, Deezer. You can find it all there. And I'll be working on an acoustic version of that album during this quarantine, and that'll probably release in the next month or so.
Cool.
So yeah, be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, we turned it on last night in our household. My daughter is a big dancer, so she was, you know, doing some spin moves, and she
oh my gosh.
So
That's amazing.
I love listening to your stuff every time it comes out, whether it's cover or a new album, man. Just keep up what you're doing, man. You're killing it.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Well, hey, we want to end with some rapid fire questions. I'm gonna keep you on your toes. Answer these short, sweet, to the point. This is
lightning round, like Ross.
This is so that we know the real Travis Atreo as we end today's segment of Let's Get Real. Here we go. Ready?
All right.
Here we go. If you could own any animal as a pet, what would it be?
Oh gosh, we've been watching Tiger King, so I want to say tiger, but I want to own it and then release it into the wild.
Okay, we'll let you go with that one. Celebrity you would most want to sit down for lunch with?
Oh gosh, it's supposed to be quick, right? It's supposed to be quick. I don't know. I'm totally drawing a blank right now. John Legend. Yeah. John Legend.
Okay, snack that is currently in your pantry.
Oh, Cool Ranch Doritos.
Oh, come on. If you could binge watch any TV show, what would you choose for the rest of your life?
Friends.
Song.
No, The Office.
Oh, The Office.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on. That's a good one. Song that will get you on the dance floor immediately.
Oh man. What's that song? Oh my God. I'm trying to think of hip hop songs from our youth. Honestly, anything, like the Stanky Leg.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. A staple at weddings, right?
Yes.
Okay, one thing you collect.
Unintentionally, audio cables.
Sunrises or sunsets?
Sunset.
What was your high school GPA?
Oh, it was like 2.98, something like that. It was really bad.
Respect. Last thing that
But I made it through.
You made it. Last thing that made you laugh hysterically?
Watching some of these TikToks with Allie. We just got on TikTok, and it's a whole new world, man. I have no idea what's happening, but I love it.
And last but not least, thing you are most thankful for?
Oh man, I'd say family and friends.
Love it.
I'm gonna keep it generic. And my dog. He's really helpful. Oh, his name's Jesse. We rescued him a few years ago, and he's a little Tibetan Terrier. But he's small, He's like, but he's 30 pounds, so he's like a medium size, and he's got these short legs. And he has such a personality that like I find myself when I get frustrated with him, I'm talking to him like he's our roommate, but then I forget that, you know, he's the dog.
I love it. Yeah. Well, friends, that's Travis Atreo. Man, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You can find all of his music on Spotify. Where else? YouTube?
YouTube, you can find, posting weekly covers on YouTube. Also, my live streams are happening every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you are in this time zone, please come hang out. It's fun. It's like an hour of music and also an hour of just me messing things up, because I'll get requests and I'll try them, and sometimes it's really bad, but it's all fun.
That's the best. Brother, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. That's another episode of Let's Get Real. And we'll see you next week for another episode as well with a different guest. But Travis, we appreciate you, man.
My pleasure.